Lay the perfect body there upon the rough branches. She saw the high priest, he to whom custom would unite her, bent, crooked, gnarled, stunted, hideous, advance with the flaming torch and stand awaiting her command to apply it to the faggots surrounding the sacrificial pyre. His hairy, bestial face was distorted in a yellow fanged grin of anticipatory enjoyment. His hands were cupped to receive the life blood of the victim, the red nectar that at Opar would have filled the golden sacrificial goblets. La approached with upraised knife, her face turned toward the rising sun, and upon her lips a prayer to the burning deity of her people. The high priest looked questioningly toward her. The brand was burning close to his hand, and the faggots lay temptingly near. Tarzan closed his eyes and awaited the end. He knew that he would suffer, for he recalled the faint memories of past burns. He knew that he would suffer and die, but he did not flinch. Death is no great adventure to the jungle bred who walk hand in hand with the grim specter by day and lie down at his side by night through all the years of their lives. It is doubtful that the ape man even speculated upon what came after death. As a matter of fact, as his end approached, his mind was occupied by thoughts of the pretty pebbles he had lost, yet his every faculty still was open to what passed around him. He felt La lean over him, and he opened his eyes. He saw her white, drawn face, and he saw tears blinding her eyes.
"Tarzan, my Tarzan," she moaned, "tell me that you love me, that you will return to Opar with me, and you shall live. Even in the face of the anger of my people I will save you. This last chance I give you. What is your answer?"
At the last moment the woman in La had triumphed over the high priestess of a cruel cult. She saw upon the altar the only creature that ever had aroused the fires of love within her virgin breast. She saw the beast-faced fanatic who would one day be her mate unless she found another less repulsive, standing with the burning torch ready to ignite the pyre. Yet, with all her mad passion for the ape man, she would give the word to apply the flame if Tarzan's final answer was unsatisfactory. With heaving bosom she leaned close above him.
"Yes or no," she whispered.
Through the jungle, out of the distance, came faintly a sound that brought a sudden light of hope to Tarzan's eyes. He raised his voice in a weird scream that sent La back from him a step or two. The impatient priest grumbled, and switched the torch from one hand to the other, at the same time holding it closer to the tinder at the base of the pyre.
"Your answer," insisted La. "What is your answer to the love of La of Opar?"
Closer came the sound that had attracted Tarzan's attention, and now the others heard it—the shrill trumpeting of an elephant. As La looked, wide-eyed, into Tarzan's face, there to read her fate for happiness or heartbreak, she saw an expression of concern shadow his features. Now, for the first time, she guessed the meaning of Tarzan's shrill scream. He had summoned Tantor, the elephant, to his rescue. La's brows contracted in a savage scowl.
"You refuse La," she cried. "Then die! The torch!" she commanded, turning toward the priest.
Tarzan looked up into her face. "Tantor is coming," he said. "I thought that he would rescue me, but I know now from his voice that he will slay me and you and all that fall in his path, searching out with the cunning of Sheeta, the panther, those who would hide from him, for Tantor is mad with the madness of love." La knew only too well the insane ferocity of a bull elephant in must. She knew that Tarzan had not exaggerated. She knew that the devil in the cunning, cruel brain of the great beast might send it hither and thither hunting through the forest for those who escaped its first charge, or the beast might pass on without returning. No one might guess which. "I cannot love you, La," said Tarzan in a low voice. "I do not know why, for you are very beautiful. I could not go back and live in Opar, I who have the whole broad jungle for my range. No, I cannot love you, but I cannot see you die beneath the goring tusks of mad Tantor. Cut my bonds before it is too late. Already he is almost upon us. Cut them and I may yet save you." A little spiral of curling smoke rose from one corner of the pyre. The flames licked upward, crackling. La stood there like a beautiful statue of despair, gazing at Tarzan and at the spreading flames. In a moment they would reach out and grasp him. From the tangled forest came the sound of cracking limbs and crashing trunks. Tantor was coming down upon them. a huge juggernaut of the jungle. The priests were becoming uneasy. They cast apprehensive glances in the direction of the approaching elephant and then back at La.
"Fly!" she commanded them,
and then she stooped and cut the bonds securing her prisoner's feet and hands. In an instant Tarzan was upon the ground. The priests screamed out their rage and disappointment. He with the torch took a menacing step toward La and the ape man. "Traitor!" he shrieked at the woman. "For this you shall die!" Raising his bludgeon he rushed upon the high priestess; but Tarzan was there before her. Leaping into close quarters the ape man seized the upraised weapon and wrenched it from the hands of the frenzied fanatic, and then the priest closed upon him with tooth and nail. Seizing the stocky, stunted body in his mighty hands, Tarzan raised the creature high above his head, hurling him at his fellows who were now gathered ready to bear down upon their erstwhile captive. La stood proudly with ready knife behind the ape man. No faint sign of fear marked her perfect brow, only haughty disdain for her priests and admiration for the man she loved so hopelessly filled her thoughts. Suddenly upon this scene burst the mad bull, a huge tusker, his little eyes inflamed with insane rage. The priest stood for an instant paralyzed with terror, but Tarzan turned and gathering La in his arms raced for the nearest tree. Tantor bore down upon him trumpeting shrilly. La clung with both white arms about the ape man's neck. She felt him leap into the air and marveled at his strength and his ability as, burdened with her weight, he swung nimbly into the lower branches of a large tree and quickly bore her upward beyond reach of the sinuous trunk of the pachyderm. Momentarily baffled here, the huge elephant wheeled and bore down upon the hapless priests who had now scattered, terror stricken, in every direction. The nearest he gored and threw high among the branches of a tree. One he seized in the coils of his trunk and broke upon a huge bole, dropping the mangled pulp to charge, trumpeting after another. Two he trampled beneath his huge feet, and by then the others had disappeared into the jungle. Now Tantor turned his attention once more to Tarzan, for one of the symptoms of madness is a revulsion of affection. Objects of sane love become the objects of insane hatred. Peculiar in the unwritten annals of the jungle was the proverbial love that had existed between the ape man and the tribe of Tantor. No elephant in all the jungle would harm the Tarmangani, the white ape, but with the madness of must upon him, the great bull sought to destroy his longtime playfellow. Back to the tree where La and Tarzan perched came Tantor, the elephant. He reared up with his forefeet against the bole and reached high toward them with his long trunk, but Tarzan had foreseen this and clambered beyond the bull's longest reach. Failure but tended to further enrage the mad creature. He bellowed and trumpeted and screamed until the earth shook to the mighty volume of his noise. He put his head against the tree and pushed, and the tree bent before his mighty strength, yet still it held. The actions of Tarzan were peculiar in the extreme. Had Numa, or Sabor, or Sheeta, or any other beast of the jungle been seeking to destroy him, the ape man would have danced about, hurling missiles and invectives at his assailant. He would have insulted and taunted them, reviling in the jungle billingsgate he knew so well. But now he sat silent out of Tantor's reach, and upon his handsome face was an expression of deep sorrow and pity, for of all the jungle folk Tarzan loved Tantor the best. Could he have slain him, he would not have thought of doing so. His one idea was to escape, for he knew that with the passing of the must Tantor would be sane again, and that once more he might stretch at full length upon that mighty back and make foolish speech into those great flapping ears. Finding that the tree would not fall to his pushing, Tantor was but enraged the more. He looked up at the two perched high above him, his red-rimmed eyes blazing with insane hatred, and then he wound his trunk about the bole of the tree, spread his giant feet wide apart, and tugged to uproot the jungle giant. A huge creature was Tantor, an enormous bull in the full prime of all his stupendous strength. Mightily he strove until presently, to Tarzan's consternation, the great tree gave slowly at the roots. The ground rose in little mounds and ridges about the base of the bole. The tree tilted. In another moment it would be uprooted and fall. The ape man whirled La to his back, and just as the tree inclined slowly in its first movement out of the perpendicular, before the sudden rush of its final collapse, he swung to the branches of a lesser neighbor. It was a long and perilous leap. La closed her eyes and shuddered, but when she opened them again she found herself safe, and Tarzan whirling onward through the forest. Behind them the uprooted tree crashed heavily